It seems iron has a smelting point of 1482 degrees Celsius, but charcoal only has a maximum heat capacity of 1300 degrees Celsius. So I can't really melt those in a crucible like copper and bronze. So what other fuel is there that I can use? What do you mean? Is there no need for other fuel? So you're saying that there is a way to melt iron at a lower temperature? How?
Use your brain.
Alright, by now you should know the drill. Before we get into this video, let's have a look at the comments of the last video. Gimbal the man, maybe I'll just hide inside from now on. I'll just live on the farm and grow my animals while dying of old age. Whatever those creatures are that you're referring to, I'm not in a rush to meet them. Josh, joke's on you, I haven't played Kenshi yet, so that reference is lost to me. Squiddy92, you'll eventually get that chicken. For now, just heat yourself with dirt like the rest of us. And finally, Shamgoo6898, if anyone else supports your idea, then feel free to suggest some mods and I'll think about it. I'll eventually need to create other content, so feel free to help me brainstorm some ideas for now. Now, let's get into the video. The process of making iron is at the same time complicated as it is simple. You need to do a lot of prepping, but once you got everything done, it goes rather easily. So, how does one make iron without reaching its melting point? Well, the answer is simple. A bloomery. And I can hear you say, what is a bloomery? How does a bloomery work? And can I eat it? Well, don't worry. I spent half a day googling that up and I still barely understand the science behind it. So, here is a mediocre and probably wrong explanation how a bloomery works. As far as I understood, iron ore doesn't contain pure iron. It contains a lot of other minerals that need to be separated, and the easiest way to do that currently is by melting it. And here is where the bloomery comes into play. The bloomery doesn't melt the iron, but it does melt the other minerals into slag. It does this by combining a number of neat science techniques. First, the bloomery itself, which is made of fire clay, and fire clay, which is highly resistant to heat, is also very insulating. This causes the heat to be retained in the bloomery, so that the blooming process goes smoother. Besides the material itself, the shape also helps with this process. As there is a hole at the bottom and the top for air circulation, the bloomery gets enough oxygen for the flames. As everyone should know, hot air goes up while the cold air goes down. This creates a natural airflow that feeds the flames oxygen. Lastly, the targeted heating. The bloomery doesn't heat the whole lump of iron at the same time. Instead, the main heat source is where the coal is burning. There is where the slag is created and funnels down at the bottom hole, solidifying into iron bloom. Now, how is it that the iron and the other minerals are separated from each other? Well, that one I'll have to take a guess, but I assume it has to do with the material density. To clarify, if you would, for example, put your blood into a centrifuge, you will get different layers of liquid. The red blood cells would go at the bottom, while the plasma would stay at the top. This is because red blood cells are heavier than plasma. And in this case, the melting of slag kinda does this thing by having the molten minerals separate from the iron minerals. Is this explanation way more confusing than needed? Yes, probably, but the core message should be clear. We need a bloomery, and for the bloomery we need fire clay. Fire clay can be obtained by two different methods. Either by finding it in the wilds or by crafting it. And as I haven't found any myself and didn't want to bother running around looking for it, I decided to craft it. To craft fire clay, you need red clay, blue clay and powder calcinite flint. The blue and red clay can be found in the wild, while the red clay is spawning nearly everywhere. Blue clay only spawns near water. For the powder calcinite flint, you need flint, which is found everywhere, and once you have the flint, you first have to cook it with coal until you get calcinite flint chunks. Those you then have to grind in a quern until you get powder calcinite flint. And after that you need to combine one powder with 4 blue clay and 4 red clay to create 8 fire clay. With 4 fire clay you can create 1 fire clay brick, and for the bloomery you'll need a total of 12 bricks. So once you have enough bricks, you'll first have to cook them in a fire pit like any other thing made out of clay, and once the bricks are cooked, combine them into a bloomery base and a bloomery chimney. Place them both on the ground and voila, you can start crafting iron. One bloomery can hold up to 120 iron nuggets, which will create 6 iron blooms. Fill it up with iron and then fill it up with 6 charcoal. Not black coal, but charcoal. Light it up and then wait around 10 in-game hours or 20-ish in real life minutes until it's done. To harvest the bloom, you'll have to break the bloomery either with your hands or a pickaxe, and that way you recuperate around 9 bricks, so you'll lose around 3 of them each time you do that, and you'll get your 6 iron blooms. And for those that noticed it, you will need a lot of bricks. So make sure you have plenty of spare bricks laying around to create more bloomeries, which you will need. Now, with the iron ready, you need to start removing the slag from the iron. And to do that, you need to beat it with a hammer. After heating up the iron bloom, of course, at least to 720 degrees Celsius. But you can't do that with a copper anvil. You will need at least a bronze anvil, which is hard enough to support that beating. So just create yourself a bronze anvil, and if you melted all your bronze into ingots, you just need to combine the ingot with a chisel to get the nuggets again. With the bronze anvil ready and the iron bloom heated, you can now take any hammer, yes, even copper hammers, to start chipping away the slag. The slag are those big black voxels, and the iron are the red voxels. Once you removed all the slag, you'll need to hit the iron into the shape of an iron ingot. Now, while the iron is not hot enough to melt, due to the heat, it is mellow enough to smash it into the shape that you want. That way, you can circumvent the need of melting it completely. Once you smashed it into an iron ingot shape, you shockingly get the iron ingot. Now, repeat this another 50-ish times, or use the help of a mechanical anvil, and you'll have yourself enough iron to make either weapons, tools, or armor. Me, however, decided not to create those tools or weapons, but to go straight to the steel age, as one steel bar costs 1 iron ingot, and the only thing it requires is a lot of time. I prefer to skip the iron age and go straight to the end tier. Steel making is a whole process on its own, so prepping will be needed. Mainly, you will need to create a cementation furnace, an iron anvil, and a stone coffin. For the cementation furnace, you will need to create refractory bricks. Refractory bricks range from tier 1 to tier 3. The higher the tier, the more resistant to heat and the longer they last before they break. But more on that later. To create tier 1 refractory bricks, you will need 2 clay, fire clay to be precise, 1 crushed quartz, and 1 crushed bauxite. Quartz is a mineral used for glass and can be found nearly everywhere, while bauxite is a red rock which can be found in bauxite regions. Both need to be crushed with at least a bronze pulverizer. After you created your bricks, you also need to cook them, and once they are cooked, you need to combine 8 bricks with 1 mortar. To create mortar, you will need to cook lime into a fire pit at least 825 degrees Celsius until you get lime powder. Next, you have to place that lime powder into a barrel and add water, and for that you need 1 liter of water for 4 lime powder. This will create slaked lime, which you will need to add sand to create mortar. And the ratio for sand to slaked lime is 1 sand for 1 liter of slaked lime. And this will create 8 mortar. And now repeat this until you have enough refractory bricks for 53 refractory brick blocks, which require 4 bricks each, and 6 refractory bricks gratings, which require 2 bricks each. Oh boy. Just for the refractory bricks, I will need around 224 bricks, which will require a lot of fire pits, which require a lot of grass, sticks, and coal. And as you can only cook 12 of them at a time into a fire pit, in total I would need around 75 coal, 190 dried grass, and 152 sticks. Yeah, I think I will need a permanent fire pit that can mass produce clay items without the need of those small fire pits. And luckily, something like that exists, which is called a beehive kiln. So the first thing I will need to do, or better said, that I want to do, is to create that one myself. So in the long term, I can mass produce anything in that beehive without the need to create those small fire pits. But more on that in the next video, as creating the bloomery and the cementation furnace itself is a lot of work. And my brain needs a little rest from all that thinking and reading. But before I go, I have a little surprise for those that stayed until the end. You see, in game there are those mega trees that can have up to more than 50 wood blocks at a time when you chop them. But when you plant them yourself, you barely have 10 to 16 blocks per tree. And no matter what you do, it would always be that number. However, I discovered a neat trick to create mega trees that are as big as you want. I'm not sure if this is common knowledge, but if you plant trees next to each other and elevate them by one block every time you build a new row, when you chop the lowest one, you'll chop them all at the same time. I hope this helps you with your tree chopping, and if it did, then comment. Squiddy needs to be patient on that chimkin. I hope you people liked the video, and if you did, then please leave a like, and for the fancy people around here, do subscribe. And for those that didn't like it, well, thank you for wasting 10 minutes of your time.